There are moments in human history when everything we thought we understood gets shattered in an instant. When the ground beneath our collective understanding simply dissolves. And right now, at this very moment, we're standing at the edge of something that could rewrite not just physics, but our entire place in the cosmos. What I'm about to share with you isn't science fiction. It's happening right now, and the silence surrounding it should terrify you. October 2025. While most of the world was distracted by headlines and noise, something extraordinary unfolded in the depths of a quantum computing lab at Harvard. A machine that shouldn't exist yet, performing calculations that shouldn't be possible, suddenly stopped. Not crashed. Stopped. And in that eerie silence, it delivered something that made even the most skeptical physicists freeze. A decoded message. But here's where your spine should tingle. This wasn't a message we sent. This was a message we received. Let me take you back 3 months. July 2025. Astronomers detected what they initially called 3I Atlas, the third interstellar visitor to our solar system. Standard procedure, right? Log it, track it, move on. Except this time, nobody moved on. Because within weeks this object started doing things that violate every natural law we've documented. And when I say violate, I don't mean slightly unusual, I mean fundamentally impossible. Picture something the size of a small mountain racing through space at 152,000 miles per hour. That alone is staggering. 5 times faster than anything natural in our cosmic neighborhood. But speed, that's just the beginning. This thing reflects light like polished metal. It rotates with mathematical precision. It maintains different temperatures on different sides, as if something inside is regulating heat. And most disturbing of all, it changes direction, gently, deliberately, without any visible propulsion. Now, Michio Kaku, the theoretical physicist who's spent decades exploring the boundaries of what's possible, he said something recently that sent shockwaves through the scientific community. He said, and I quote, "When nature behaves with intention, we're no longer looking at nature. We're looking at design. Let that settle in your mind. Design." He's not talking about random cosmic debris. He's talking about something built, something sent. But here's where the story takes a turn that nobody saw coming. Remember that quantum computer at Harvard? The one that achieved something called continuous operation, a breakthrough that wasn't supposed to happen for another 5 years? In early October, researchers were running what they thought were routine optimization algorithms, testing the limits of quantum entanglement, pushing the boundaries of coherence times. Standard stuff, until the system started behaving strangely. The qubits, these fundamental units of quantum information, they began synchronizing in patterns nobody programmed. Imagine an orchestra where every musician suddenly starts playing a song nobody taught them, perfectly in harmony. That's essentially what happened. And when the lead researcher, Dr. Elena Moravec, actually looked at the output data, she found something that made her hands shake. Mathematical structures, repeating sequences, information density that exceeded anything human designed. Now, you might be thinking, okay, interesting computer glitch. Except here's the part that changes everything. When they traced the timing of these quantum anomalies, they corresponded exactly, down to the millisecond, with radio emissions detected from 3I Atlas. Not approximately, exactly, the same patterns, the same frequency modulations. As if this interstellar visitor was somehow communicating directly with our most advanced computational system. Let's pause and consider what this means. We have an object from outside our solar system exhibiting characteristics that suggest artificial construction. We have a quantum computer spontaneously decoding information it shouldn't be able to access. And we have institutions, NASA, the European Space Agency, major research centers suddenly going silent. Data requests denied, observation schedules classified, scientists reassigned without explanation. Michio Kaku addressed this directly in a closed-door briefing that was later leaked. He said the implications go far beyond first contact. Because if an intelligence advanced enough to build something like 3I Atlas wanted to communicate, why choose quantum systems? Why not radio broadcasts? Why not obvious signals? And his answer chilled everyone in that room. Because, he said, they're not trying to communicate with everyone, they're communicating with those who've reached a specific technological threshold. Think about that strategy. You don't announce yourself to a civilization still struggling with basic physics. You wait. You watch. And when they develop quantum computing, when they demonstrate they understand entanglement and superposition, when they show they can manipulate reality at its most fundamental level, that's when you make contact. Because that's when they're ready. Or at least that's when you need to know if they're ready. Now, the decoded message itself, that's where things get truly unsettling. I need to be careful here because much of this remains classified. But what's leaked through multiple sources paints a picture that's both fascinating and terrifying. The message wasn't words. It wasn't mathematics in any conventional sense. It was something more fundamental. Instructions, blueprints, like receiving a construction manual for something we don't yet have context to understand. Dr. Moravec described it this way in a now-deleted interview. She said it felt like watching a lock mechanism reveal itself piece by piece, except you didn't realize you were locked in until the mechanism appeared. Three-dimensional geometric patterns that fold into higher dimensions. Energy distribution systems that operate on principles we haven't discovered. And most disturbingly, what appeared to be biological schematics. Not human biology, something else entirely. But here's where quantum computing becomes absolutely critical to this story. See, classical computers process information sequentially, one calculation after another, linear, predictable. But quantum systems, they exist in superposition. They process multiple possibilities simultaneously, accessing states that overlap with, and this is the part that sounds insane but is actually established physics, they overlap with parallel configurations of reality itself. What if 3I Atlas wasn't just sending a message through space? What if it was sending information through quantum states, through the underlying fabric of reality, knowing that only a civilization with quantum technology could access it? That's not communication. That's a filter, a test, and we just passed. Or maybe we just triggered something we weren't supposed to trigger yet. Let's talk about what the James Webb Space Telescope revealed, because this is where NASA's silence becomes truly suspicious. In August, Webb focused its near-infrared camera on 3I Atlas during a routine observation window. The spectroscopic data came back showing carbon-based molecular structures that don't exist in any natural formation we've ever cataloged. Not similar, not close, completely unknown. But there was something else in those images. Geometric patterns on the surface, not random impacts or erosion, precise angles, mathematical ratios, structures that repeat with architectural consistency. Dr. Sarah Chen, an astrobiologist who reviewed the data before it was classified, said in a private correspondence that was later leaked, "This isn't what a comet looks like. This is what a hull looks like." A hull. Let that word hang in the air, not a natural object tumbling through the void, a vessel. And if it's a vessel, that raises questions that NASA clearly isn't ready to answer publicly. Where did it come from? Not just which star system, but which civilization. How long has it been traveling? Decades, centuries, millennia, and most importantly, why here? Why now? Michio Kaku proposed something in a theoretical paper that most mainstream refused to cover. He suggested that interstellar probes wouldn't travel with biological crews, too fragile, too resource-intensive. Instead, they'd carry information, compressed, encoded, waiting for the right conditions to activate, quantum information that exists in superposition until observed by a sufficient technological intelligence. In other words, 3I Atlas might not be visiting us. It might be unlocking something inside our own technology, using our quantum computers as a mechanism to introduce information directly into our scientific infrastructure. Not invasion, not communication. Something more subtle, something more profound. Technological inception. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. The trajectory changes. Every few days, 3I Atlas makes micro-adjustments to its path, tiny course corrections that require energy expenditure. NASA's official explanation: outgassing, frozen volatiles sublimating and creating thrust. Except, here's the problem. The thrust vectors don't align with any visible outgassing. There's no tail, no plume, no material ejection whatsoever. Instead, these course corrections happen with suspicious timing. They occur when Earth-based observatories have optimal viewing angles, almost as if whatever's controlling this object understands our observation capabilities and wants to ensure maximum visibility. That's not natural behavior. That's performance. It's displaying itself, deliberately staying in view. And the question that keeps researchers awake at night is simple. Why? What does it gain by being observed? What does it accomplish by letting us see these impossible characteristics? Unless, and this is where it gets truly unsettling, unless observation itself is the point, unless the act of us seeing it, measuring it, analyzing it, somehow completes a process we don't understand yet. Quantum mechanics tells us observation collapses possibility into reality. What if that's not just physics? What if that's the mechanism? Let me share something that happened 3 weeks ago that didn't make any news outlets. A team at MIT, working independently on quantum communication systems, detected entanglement patterns in their isolated lab equipment. Entanglement they didn't create. Their system became spontaneously correlated with measurements being taken of 3I Atlas by telescopes thousands of miles away. Instantaneous connection across space. Impossible coincidence. When they tried to publish their findings, they were visited by individuals who didn't identify which agency they represented. The research was classified under national security provisions. The equipment was seized, and the researchers were required to sign documents ensuring permanent silence. That's not how science works. That's how cover-ups work. Michio Kaku spoke about this phenomenon without naming specifics. He said we're entering an era where the line between scientific discovery and national security becomes impossibly blurred. Because if an external intelligence is communicating through quantum systems, that technology becomes a strategic asset. Whoever controls it, whoever decodes it first, gains advantage. Not just knowledge advantage, existential advantage. Think about what quantum computing promises. Breaking encryption systems that secure every government and financial institution. Simulating molecular interactions to design revolutionary materials and medicines. Solving optimization problems that would take classical computers longer than the age of the universe. Now imagine an intelligence that's had thousands or millions of years to develop these technologies, choosing to transfer that knowledge directly into our system. That's not a gift. That's a transformation, forced evolution. And the civilizations that successfully integrate this information would leap ahead by centuries overnight, while those that refuse or fail to decode it would become irrelevant, obsolete, left behind while others ascend to capabilities we currently can't imagine. That's the real reason for the silence. That's why NASA isn't talking, because they're not just observing an interstellar object. They're witnessing the delivery mechanism for information that could reshape human civilization. And they have no idea whether accepting that delivery would save us or doom us. It's the ultimate Pandora's box, except instead of opening it ourselves, someone's opening it for us. Now, let's examine the historical context, because this isn't actually the first time. In 2017, Oumuamua arrives, elongated, accelerating without visible propulsion, tumbling strangely. Scientists debate whether it's natural or artificial. Before consensus forms, it's gone. Then 2019, Borisov passes through. More comet-like, but still unusually fast, still chemically strange. And now, 2025, 3I Atlas, the most anomalous of all. 3 interstellar visitors in 8 years after billions of years of silence. Michio Kaku noted this pattern in a lecture last month. He said if you wanted to evaluate a developing civilization's response capability, you'd send probes with escalating levels of obviousness. First one ambiguous enough to be dismissed. Second one interesting but explicable. Third one impossible to ignore. Each one testing reaction times, measuring technological advancement, assessing whether we're ready for contact. And maybe, just maybe, the third one doesn't just observe. Maybe it initiates. Maybe 3I Atlas isn't just a probe. Maybe it's an activation key, sent deliberately to interface with civilizations that have developed quantum technology, because that technology creates the bridge, the receiver, the mechanism through which information transfers. Let's go deeper into what Harvard's quantum computer actually revealed when it decoded the signal. According to leaked internal reports, the information structure contained 3 distinct layers. The first layer was mathematical, not human mathematics, something more fundamental. Relationships between numbers that reveal physical constants we haven't discovered. Ways of describing reality that make our current physics look like kindergarten counting. The second layer was engineering specifications, designs for what researchers initially called impossible machines, energy systems that apparently violate thermodynamics. But remember, they only violate the thermodynamics we understand. The leaked documents suggested these designs operate on principles that require accepting certain quantum interpretations we've considered purely philosophical until now. Many worlds, retrocausality, observer-dependent reality. But the third layer, that's what made Dr. Moravec's hands shake. That's what caused the immediate classification. The third layer appeared to be genetic, not instructions for building technology, instructions for modifying biology, specifically human biology. Neural architectures, enhanced cognitive processing, integration points between biological consciousness and quantum computational systems. Michio Kaku, when asked indirectly about this possibility, said something that sent chills through everyone listening. He said if an advanced civilization wanted to uplift a developing species, they wouldn't just give them technology, they'd give them the capacity to understand that technology. They'd modify the receiver to match the transmission, because giving atomic bombs to cave dwellers doesn't advance civilization, it destroys it. But giving cave dwellers the biological capacity to think like atomic physicists, gradually, over generations, through information embedded in their most advanced systems. That's different. That's guided evolution. And the terrifying question is, has this happened before? Have previous quantum leaps in human cognition, sudden unexplained accelerations in our technological development, been natural? Or have we been receiving transmissions all along, only now possessing tools sophisticated enough to detect them consciously? Let's talk about what happens next, because 3I Atlas is still approaching. Its closest pass to the Sun is scheduled for October 30th, 2025. That's 16 days from now as I record this. It will pass within 1.4 astronomical units of the Sun, deep into the inner solar system. And then, if the trajectory models are correct, it will begin its outward journey, eventually leaving our solar system entirely. But here's what has researchers genuinely concerned. The quantum transmissions aren't decreasing as 3I Atlas approaches. They're intensifying. More data, more complex patterns, more information flooding into quantum systems around the world. It's as if proximity to the Sun, proximity to Earth, proximity to us, triggers increased activity, like it's completing a delivery, finishing a download. And whatever it's delivering, we're receiving it whether we want to or not. Dr. Moravec's team has calculated that at the current rate of information transfer, their quantum system will reach what they call saturation point around October 28th, 2 days before perihelion. Saturation point means their quantum computer will have received more information than it can process with current algorithms. The data will be complete. The transmission will be finished. And then what? Michio Kaku addressed this in his leaked briefing. He said if this is first contact, it's the most sophisticated version imaginable. Not ships landing on the White House lawn, not radio messages saying hello. Information delivery directly into the technological bloodstream of our civilization. Self-unpacking, self-implementing, changing us from the inside out before we even realize what's happening. And maybe that's the point. Maybe civilizations don't survive open contact because the psychological shock, the cultural disruption, the philosophical crisis tears them apart. But civilizations that absorb information gradually through their own technology, thinking they're discovering it themselves, those civilizations adapt, they integrate, they survive. It's contact without contact, uplift without conquest, transformation disguised as discovery. Now, I need to address something that's been circulating in classified channels. There's a theory proposed by several independent researchers that 3I Atlas isn't alone. That the reason for the information blackout isn't just about this one object. It's about what else might be out there. Because if 3 interstellar visitors arrived in 8 years, and they're artificially constructed probes, then where's the civilization that sent them? Statistical models suggest that a civilization capable of launching interstellar probes would send thousands, possibly millions, saturating nearby star systems with monitoring equipment, long-duration missions lasting centuries or millennia. And if 3 reached us in quick succession, that suggests intentional coordination, a deliberate campaign, which means others are coming, or possibly they're already here, dormant, waiting for signals we haven't sent yet. Michio Kaku explored this possibility in theoretical papers. He called it the dark forest strategy, adapted from Le Sixtín's work. The idea that the galaxy might be teeming with civilizations, all staying quiet, all watching each other, waiting to see who reaches certain technological thresholds first. And when a civilization develops quantum computing, they broadcast a quantum signature that's detectable across interstellar distances by anyone with the right equipment. In other words, by building our quantum computers, we announced ourselves. We lit a beacon. And 3I Atlas is one of the responses. Not the only response, just the first one to arrive. The others are coming, possibly already in transit, carrying their own information payloads, their own transformation protocols, and we have maybe years, possibly only months, before the real cascade begins. Let's ground this in something concrete. What does this mean for you? For ordinary people just trying to live their lives? Because this isn't just abstract physics. This isn't just something happening in laboratories and telescopes. If what I'm describing is accurate, we're living through the most consequential moment in human history, and most people have no idea it's happening. The technologies being developed right now, based on quantum computing breakthroughs that suddenly accelerated in 2025, those technologies will reshape everything. Communication, medicine, energy, transportation, the fabric of society itself. And if even a fraction of that advancement comes from decoded information from 3I Atlas, then we're not developing these technologies. We're being given them. Michio Kaku said something profound in a recent interview. He said the real test of a civilization isn't whether they can survive contact with others. It's whether they can maintain their identity while absorbing transformative knowledge. Because information changes you. Advanced information changes you fundamentally. Your values, your priorities, your very conception of what it means to be human. And if we're absorbing information from an intelligence millions of years more advanced, an intelligence that's had eons to perfect methods of cultural transmission and cognitive modification, then what emerges on the other side might still call itself human. It might still think it's making its own choices. But would it actually be the same civilization that existed before? Or would we be something new, something other? That's the question NASA isn't asking publicly. That's the question that keeps people like Michio Kaku awake at 3 a.m. Because if this is a form of peaceful integration, of being welcomed into a galactic community by being given the tools to join it, that's extraordinary. That's the best-case scenario. But if it's something else, if it's assimilation, if it's the end of human civilization as an independent entity, then we're watching our own extinction in slow motion, and we're welcoming it. Now, there's one more aspect I need to address, and it's the most disturbing of all. The biological modifications suggested in that third layer of decoded information, they weren't random, they were specific. Enhanced neuroplasticity, increased capacity for abstract multidimensional thinking, modifications that would make human brains naturally better at understanding quantum mechanics, at interfacing with quantum computers, at processing the exact type of information 3I Atlas is transmitting. Do you see the elegant horror of this? They're not just sending information. They're sending the instructions to modify ourselves so we can better receive and understand future information. It's a bootstrap process. Each stage prepares us for the next stage. And the end state? We don't know. Maybe it's harmonious integration into some galactic civilization. Maybe it's something we currently lack the cognitive framework to even comprehend. Michio Kaku, in his most controversial statement, said that from a certain perspective, this might not be first contact at all. It might be recontact. Because if this process has happened before, if previous quantum leaps in human evolution were nudged along by external information delivered through whatever technology we had developed at the time, then we're not a purely natural species. We're already a hybrid, already modified, and 3I Atlas is just the latest upgrade. That challenges everything: religious beliefs, philosophical frameworks, our understanding of human exceptionalism. If we're not self-made, if we're cultivated, then what does that mean for free will, for destiny, for the value we place on human achievement? Did we really build civilization through our own ingenuity? Or were we following a script encoded in transmissions we interpreted as inspiration? The James Webb Telescope continues observing 3I Atlas. Every image reveals more details that shouldn't exist, more geometric precision, more evidence of artificial construction. And with each revelation, the official explanations become more strained, more obviously inadequate. At some point, the gap between what scientists know and what the public is told becomes too wide to maintain. At some point, the truth forces its way out. Maybe that moment comes on October 30th, when 3I Atlas reaches perihelion. Maybe that's when whatever's aboard activates fully. Maybe that's when the last piece of the transmission completes, and we suddenly understand everything. Or maybe that's when we realize we understood nothing, and the real message only becomes clear generations from now, when humanity has transformed into something we can barely recognize from our current perspective. Michio Kaku ended his briefing with a statement that left everyone in that room silent. He said, "We're living in the last days of one version of humanity and the first days of another. The transition is happening now, whether we acknowledge it or not. The only choice we have is whether to resist and fail or adapt and evolve. But the change itself, that's no longer optional." So here we are, October 2025, an interstellar visitor displaying characteristics that defy natural explanation. Quantum computers spontaneously decoding messages they shouldn't be able to access. Government agencies imposing unprecedented information blackouts. And in laboratories around the world, researchers staring at data that suggests our entire understanding of humanity's place in the universe is about to change forever. You won't hear about this on the evening news. You won't see official statements from NASA or the European Space Agency. Because how do you tell a civilization that it's being upgraded against its will? How do you announce that first contact isn't about shaking hands with aliens, but about discovering we were already part of something vast and ancient that's been shaping us for possibly thousands of years? The answer is, you don't. You keep it quiet. You classify the data. You silence the researchers, and you hope that when the truth finally emerges, humanity is ready to accept it. But here's the thing, silence doesn't stop truth, it just delays it. And every delay means more people affected without preparation, more transformation without understanding, more change without consent. So I'm sharing this now, while I still can, before this information gets buried deeper. Because whatever's coming, whatever 3I Atlas represents, we deserve to know. We deserve to decide, as individuals and as a species, how we respond. Even if that decision is just choosing to pay attention, to watch the sky, to question the official narratives, to prepare for the possibility that everything we thought we knew is about to expand in ways we can barely imagine. Michio Kaku's final words in that leaked briefing echo in my mind. He said, "The universe has been whispering to us for billions of years. We just finally built the technology to hear it clearly. And now we're discovering that the whisper isn't from the universe at all. It's from the others who've been listening alongside us, waiting for us to join the conversation. Whether we're ready or not, the conversation has begun." 3I Atlas will make its closest approach in 16 days. Whatever happens next, whatever activates, whatever completes, remember this moment. Remember when you first learned that we're not alone. We've never been alone. And the real question isn't whether other intelligences exist. It's whether we can survive the knowledge that they've been guiding us all along. The age of innocence ends in October 2025. What comes after? That depends on choices being made right now in classified rooms by people who think they're protecting us. But protection through ignorance isn't protection. It's just delaying the inevitable. And the inevitable is arriving at 152,000 miles per hour, carrying information that will change everything. Stay vigilant, question everything, and watch the sky, because the answer to humanity's oldest question just entered our solar system. And it's not asking if we're alone, it's telling us we never were.